Hey folks, it's Matt once again, and welcome back to another Jean-Claude Van Damme movie review for my month of Van Damme films, since it's the month of my birthday. And the next film I'm going to talk about is the first of two movies that he did with, I believe you pronounce it Tsui Hark. And I know I reviewed this one first, but the first time he worked with this guy, Tsui Hark, is Double Team. But I just wanted to mix it up because I guess I wanted to review this one first because I do like this one a bit more. So, I don't know. I'm just weird like that. Review the lesser one first. But Double Team, I know Van Damme around this time was really heavy into drugs and coke. And this as well as that one are not were not that well received. It's a few critics. Kevin Thomas of the LA Times, which I've seen Kevin Thomas reviews on quite a few Van Damme films, so it seems like Kevin Thomas is a fan of Van Damme, which is cool. A Slim Bainer, one of Van Damme's best. I wouldn't call it one of his best, but I do really enjoy the film. I do agree with Michael Wilmington of Chicago Tribune, a stylish action show. High style, high energy, high speed. I do agree with that. And I do find the film entertaining. I would definitely say I like it more than Knockoff. Knockoff, like I said, it's okay. Very strange film. But I do enjoy Double Team. And it does have a couple flaws. This guy being the big one, Dennis Rodman. But Double Team, again, like I said, Tsui Hark, he was known as sort of the Steven Spielberg of Hong Kong. And he had done Once Upon a Time in China flicks. And I don't know why they got Dennis Rodman to be in it. I mean, this is around the time where you had a lot of basketball, not a lot, but you had a couple basketball players thinking they were actors. I mean, you had Michael Jordan in Space Jam, which I do enjoy Space Jam, but Michael Jordan is not. He was playing himself. Yeah, Shaquille O'Neal doing Kazam and Steel. Then you had Dennis Rodman doing this. Then he did a film called Simon Says, which that's a true piece of crap. This is definitely better than Simon Says. You also have Mickey Rourke as the bad guy, which that was pretty cool to see. Yeah, Paul Freeman, who is Belloc in Raiders of the Lost Ark. He's in this film. And Double Team, the reason I like the film, it's not that long of a flick. It goes at a good pace, pretty fast pace. I mean, without the end credits, it's about 80 minutes long. And the credit by Michael Wilmington of Chicago Tribune really does say it all. It is a stylish action film. High style, high energy, high speed. I definitely agree with that. You have quite a bit of action set pieces, some pretty good practical explosions and fisticuffs and gunfights. I mean, it's the first 2 minutes or so is Van Damme. He's this guy, counterterrorism, call him a spy, call him however you want to call it. His last job, there's a stolen plutonium, and he steals this armored truck, kind of a cool looking armored truck. I'm not sure how to describe it, but it's not a typical armored truck. It's a certain special looking armored truck, armored vehicle. And he drives through a building. There's gunfire shooting at him, and he's trying to get away from the bad guys, and he goes down the hill, and there's even tanks firing at him. There's practical explosions. He even drives the sucker through a train, and then the credits start. Double Team. I'm like, wow, that's how the film starts. Practical explosions. This cool looking armored truck going through a damn train, all practical, is pretty cool. And Mickey Rourke is a bad guy. There's this guy that he sort of gets in the back seat of this guy's car, tells him to pull over here. I left you a present, and the guy's car blows up, and you have Mickey Rourke walking in slow mo. It's the explosion behind him. Sad to say, he probably was a better bad guy here than he was in Iron Man 2. That's sad to say. Dennis Rodman, the reason he's in this film is he's a guy who, if you want to go to get weapons, he's the weapons dealer, and his club that he's has his weapons at very eccentric. People with pierced everywhere, and there's even some woman or someone in a scuba tank with scuba gear on, but maybe it's a sexual thing. It's just weird. And Van Damme goes to see him right at the beginning because he did quit. He has a wife who's expecting a baby, but of course, people come in and say, "You gotta come back. Mickey Rourke's character Stavros is out there. We need you here. He was the one guy you couldn't catch. We need your help on this." He decides to help. Needs some weapons. Goes to see Rodman, and you have jokes that you would expect when you have Dennis Rodman. Who does your hair? Siegfried or Roy? And he's like, "Well, the last time a guy made fun of my hair, I stuck his head up. They're still trying to get his head out of his ass." Now, I do like Van Damme's retort. I don't want to know about your sex life. Something like that. And like he opens something, looks like an earring, and Robin's like, "Did you open that?" Fire in the hole! Throws it. Explosion. Uh, I mean, Dennis Rodman, he's not a good actor. And throughout the film, the dialogue for him is pretty bad. They give him so many basketball puns. Later on, he sets up a detonator and he's got to throw something. He misses. He goes, "Ooh, air ball." There's a guy he throws. It goes through a window, and Rodman goes, "Oh, I better call that a 5-pointer." It's like, stop with the basketball puns. We get it. You were a basketball player. That for some reason they thought as an actor. I'm like, he's not the worst actor in the world, sad to say. I mean, I would take him over Rob Schneider, who was in this film. But at times he's tolerable. But I'm thinking you could have just gotten a lot of better people. Hell, you could have gotten Roddy Piper, for example. Why not Roddy Piper? If you want an eccentric guy, why not Roddy Piper? I mean, there's so other people better than Dennis Rodman. So he's one of the big problems with the flick. But it gives us such a fast pace and style with the way Tsui Hark. But their style was not overdone to the point of this film. I mean, even I said the style kind of made the film not boring and kept me interested in watching. But a lot of times it just got to be too much. Here, their style was not extremely overboard like Knockoff is. And it works. Some good style. I mean, they set up this hit where he's told to get Mickey Rourke's character in alive, so they have some train darts. Mickey Rourke's going to be at this amusement park, and Van Damme's, they got the sights on him. It's like, who's that? Who's with Mickey Rourke? And there's a kid, Mickey Rourke's son. And of course, Van Damme, like I said, his wife's pregnant. He goes soft at the moment. And Mickey Rourke notices, shoots a sniper right through the eye of the barrel the person had, and a shootout takes place. You have some good stunt work. A grenade gets thrown. Van Damme's character jumps from here to here, holding on to this sort of a sign, a banner, and they have an explosion happen. Mickey Rourke's taking out people left and right. Van Damme's taking out people left and right. I could tell one part is not Van Damme, which if you see in the trailer, Van Damme's character does this weird sort of flip and then lands on one hand and then shoots. I'm like, you can tell it's not Van Damme, but the rest of it seems it's pretty cool. If you have some fun bits of gunfights, and I'm trying to think, is there something I forgot? I wrote a couple lines of dialogue down. The nursery, that's what it was. I wanted to, because it gets to another part of the film, but before that, there's a nursery that Van Damme comes upon that I guess is in the amusement park or near the amusement park. And Mickey Rourke's really pissed off because his boy got killed in the crossfire. And You did some nice little bit of gunfire, a nice little fight you did between Mickey Rourke and Van Damme. I'm sure they didn't get along with each other because Van Damme had his drug problem, and then Mickey Rourke was never the most calm guy to work with if you follow his past films. I'm sure they didn't get well along together at all. But I have a nice little fisticuffs fights around the nursery, and then Van Damme finds one of the babies, and there's a grenade in it, and he throws it, pushing the baby out of the way to safety. Practical explosion. Van Damme gets hit with shrapnel on the back. Ooh, shit, and he gets knocked the fuck out. So I thought, for the opening film, first 15, 20 minutes, it goes at a pretty fast pace. You get some pretty decent action set pieces, sequences, some practical explosions. It really doesn't take long to get going. It really sort of gets in there right from the get-go. And then you go to the most interesting part of the movie, which I believe at one point this was titled The Colony, or something to that effect, because I haven't seen this TV show called The Prisoner, but from reading up, it seems influenced by that TV show, The Prisoner. And that's Van Damme wakes up in this place it's where ex-spies and even ex-enemy of spies are retired to. It's a nice looking place, looks like a nice resort, there's swimming pools, but they're prisoners there. They can't leave. All around the ocean are these big lasers that if you go in, you die. They even go, if you want to SF, to put your thumbprint on here, otherwise we'll release this nerve gas, and he has to put his thumbprint on there. And they bring people there who are retired or can't make it in the game anymore, the spy game, to this colony to act as a think tank. And there's all these computers and such, and you have to have your hand on this, what do you call it, on the scanner. And some people have visors, and they look over this information. Like at one point, they're looking into this airplane that crashed, and they want everyone's input, and Van Damme puts some input into it to find out what really happened. It's just a really interesting idea. A colony. I haven't seen the TV show The Prisoner, but from what I've read up, it seems similar to that. It was very cool to see Van Damme in that kind of situation, and being a big Jean-Claude Van Damme fan. Again, he's one of my favorite action stars. It was pretty cool to see. And you have these lasers underwater, so you can't escape. And pretty much Van Damme starts training himself because he was injured because of all that shrapnel and stuff. So he starts working himself up. There's a little, kind of like where a door would be, like a little thing up above that he uses. He stretches his legs. He's pumping himself up. He attaches his foot to a rope and to a pail with rocks in it, and he's lifting his leg up and down, and with his other leg he's kicking the shit out of the pail, lifting his leg up and down. It's tied to a rope to the pail to strengthen it, and with the other he kicks the shit out of the pail. He hides himself underwater of the tub, fills the tub with water to see how long he can hold his breath, and he starts training himself. I like that he uses a cigarette as a timer, so he does one time and it's only gone that much. As he goes on, the ashes get bigger and bigger. So I like that he uses a cigarette as a timer, and again, he's training himself to breathe as long as he can underwater. I thought that was pretty cool. And he even fills the bathtub with water again, and he puts some stuff on him to lift the whole tub with his hips and such, with arms, without arms, to give himself training. And you really see that he might have had a drug problem, but he was in definite shape in this film. Definite good shape. And again, sort of another, kind of like what I said in some of the other films, I like when they do these training scenes and they bring something different to the table. This is another example, so I thought that was really interesting. And then he set up this device that'll go down to act as a thumbprint, and he even skins his thumb, the print off his thumb, which just made me cringe. I don't know why, it's the little things. It's like a paper cut or something, but he just cuts his fingerprint off and he takes it off of his thumb. He's like, oh shit, and then he attaches it to something so that when the time comes, it'll. And you do have Coca-Cola product placement, especially in this film, because one of the things he uses is a Coca-Cola can. And believe me, there's a big thing at the end. That's another one of the really kind of things of the film is the Coca-Cola product placement. There's one big scene at the end, especially. But I like the idea, just skinning, and it looked like a nice little effect that they had there. And the time comes because every once in a while supplies are sent off and picked up. And now is the time. The thing works. Van Damme is at the cliff and he yells and jumps. And I love the shot which you see in the trailers where he's going down into the ocean and just about as he hits it, the lasers disappear. And it's all in one shot from up above you. I thought that was a really cool looking shot. And then there's this guy who's fucking with him on the colony that attacks him underwater, and he fights the guy off and attaches a hook to the thing that the plane's going to pick up, and he flies off while the asshole gets killed from the lasers in the water as they pop on again. And a nice shot. It looks like a person on the crate that's flying on the back of the plane. And even the up close of Van Damme, it's not too shabby of a shot. I mean, this is a film that I'm sure didn't have the biggest budget in the world. And it's not that shabby. I mean, it's not photorealistic, but it's not as shabby as I've seen in other films. And he beats some guys up, and I like the fact that he's asking, do you have a parachute? Yes. And then he kicks them or he throws them off, so he doesn't want to kill them. But he gets a nice little kicking action from Van Damme, gets the shot of these guys, throws them off. Oh, and Paul Freeman, the reason he's actually part of the colony, he's the guy who's talking to Van Damme the most, telling him what's going on, what happens in the colony. That's how Paul Freeman comes in. And then you find out that he's Van Damme's guardian and he's there to track Van Damme, which honestly doesn't really come much into play in the third act. I mean, he pops up at the very end, but it's not a constant him searching for Van Damme and searching for Van Damme. Almost to the point of why did they even have that in the first place, but nice to see Paul Freeman there. He did a good job. But when he gets back, he goes to Dennis Rodman again, says he wants some guns, says he doesn't have any money, so Rodman says no. But then Van Damme says, well, I have this and this and this, I'll give it to you later. And Rodman's like, I look at you, all I see is trouble. But what the hell? Kind of like trouble. They get on this plane, and Van Damme's like, hey, this special thing you have, does it work? And Rodman's like, yeah. Okay, Van Damme pushes Dennis Rodman off the airplane, and he follows through. And the parachute is in the shape, envelopes all of them, and is in the shape of a basketball. Again, the constant basketball references got annoying. Once or twice would have been fine, but constant references when it's with Dennis Rodman got annoying very quickly. But I do like this scene here where Van Damme goes to see his home again to see if his wife's okay, because he had gotten a message earlier from Mickey Rourke's character. And again, some nice stunt work. He sees that it's a fake baby in this crib. It's not his son. There's a bomb. And you see really good stunt work where person, probably not Van Damme, be too dangerous, barely avoids the bomb, and then all these bad guys come in, and Van Damme goes to the swimming pool. He's shooting this guy, shooting this guy. The whole house explodes. There's one or two funky shots where Van Damme's going and there's an explosion behind him. It almost looks stop motion or something, just the way Van Damme looks. So there's one or two funky looking shots, but it's like, okay. But he shoots these guys, and there's even one of the bad guys who's a woman, and Van Damme doesn't want to shoot her, but he does. But then as she shot, she had a grenade, and Van Damme has to get out of the way. And that's where you get the second the second funky looking shot where Van Damme goes, ah! And right behind him, everything explodes. But in a way, it's funky looking, but at the same time, I kind of like the shot. I don't know why. It's kind of, even though it's a funky looking shot, you know it's not quite right. I kind of like the shot. Maybe because all the practical explosion behind, I don't know. But I thought that was actually a pretty decently entertaining sequence. And then by then, there's not much of the film yet left. There's this try to have this meeting with Mickey Rourke. All these people are there, and Rodman's there, and there's a shootout and a chase, and that's where Rodman throws a guy and says, "Oh, I call that a 5-pointer." Van Damme chases this one guy, this sniper guy, because Mickey Rourke's gotten away. And he gets some nice fisticuffs. Van Damme kisses the shit out of this guy before he does the guy. Kind of like in uh, Desperado. Instead of a guitar case, his sniper case has the machine gun. He does that sort of thing like the guy in Desperado did in the third act. And he kisses the guy's ass. Then he fights this guy, this bald-headed guy who's barefooted. And on one of his bare feet, a knife comes out of it, or it's attached to his foot, or like he's holding it with his toes. Why? I don't know, but he's pretty efficient with it, and I've never seen that done before. It's kind of interesting. And there's one shot that I know is not Van Damme. It's where it's like a wide shot with the two characters, and like the guy with the knife on his foot is almost swiping the guy, and the guy falls back. I could tell that wasn't Van Damme. Maybe they thought it was too dangerous. But the rest of it looked like it was Van Damme, and you have some nice back and forth. I thought that was a sort of an interesting, entertaining scene. And he gets out of there. Rodman had told him this one thing before, and he finds these guys who are pretty much cyber monks. And they're friends of Dennis Rodman, and they typed some stuff up, and they looked into some stuff, and I'm thinking, do you really need these cybermonks things? And with the help of some people, they find where, honestly, you didn't need the cybermonks, but yeah, I thought it was just silly and stupid, and just wasn't needed in the film. And I think he kind of had the same thing in Simon Says. That's why I thought, is Simon Says with Dennis Rodman supposed to connect with this film? I mean, I just thought it was kind of a lame thing. But then him and Dennis Rodman find out where Van Damme's wife and whose baby she's given birth to his son at that point. Pretty much they beat a couple bad guys up, and Van Damme confronts Mickey Rourke in this arena where the baby is there, and there's all these mines that are marked with crosses, and then Mickey Rourke leaves, and there's a tiger as well. And I'm like, so it's an arena, crosses, the mines are at, a baby, and a tiger. I'm like, okay, this is pretty crazy. Interesting. Never seen it before. Pretty crazy. I thought the tiger work was pretty good. I mean, it seemed like a real tiger pretty much all the time. So there's even a point where the tiger is looking at the baby, and the same shot of the baby, and I'm sure some effects work was used, and people could probably pick it out just like that, but I couldn't. I thought it was pretty melded. It melded together pretty decently. And Rodman comes in on his motorcycle, and Van Damme even kicks the tiger. So Jean-Claude Van Damme kicked the tiger away from his baby. So that was kind of fun. Silly, but fun. And Rodman gets the baby out of harm's way. Van Damme gets a little fisticuff with Mickey Rourke, which is some fun times. Some nice classic Van Damme. Not as epic as, say, Cyborg or... That's why, like, the fisticuffs are good. Not as epic as, for me, as, Kickboxer, Cyborg, Bloodsport, Hard Target, but still some entertaining stuff. And then they get back... They go away from the... Well, actually, before that, I should say, there's a little chase where Van Damme leads the tiger away, and Van Damme even kicks this post, so that the tiger falls through and falls to the ground and attacks one of the bad guys. Again, nice usage of the tiger. They didn't really use. I didn't really notice them using any CGI tiger, which they would do nowadays. It'd just be a CGI tiger. So I do give credit to some of the tiger usage. And then that's where it leads to Van Damme fighting Mickey Rourke again. And I do notice one thing is that there's these two ticks that Van Damme does that you could tell it's not Van Damme because A, Van Damme does not move like that, and B, if you look at the face, you go, okay, that's not Van Damme. It's one where there's Mickey Rourke and Van Damme comes up and does like poo 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 like 2 or 3 kicks right into the chest. I'm like, okay, Van Damme has never done anything like that. He doesn't move like that, and I don't know why they do that. I mean, if you have Van Damme, just have him do what he can do. And I'm thinking, was he coked up? He wasn't able to do that? Or was it a choice by Tsui Hark saying, I want that kind of kick here. If Van Damme can't do it, just have someone else do it. I don't know what the deal is. I would just prefer Van Damme doing a 360 kick, a helicopter kick instead of that. But who knows? Maybe Troy. I didn't really see any helicopter kicks, so maybe Troy Hart doesn't like that. I don't know. But I would just prefer that than to see that. Because it'd be Van Damme himself doing it. I mean, that's what you hire Van Damme for. But other than those 1 or 2 kicks, some decent fisticuffs. Mick Rourke accidentally steps on a mine because Dennis Rodman moved the crosses. They get out of there. The tiger comes back, ready to attack Mickey Rourke, and big explosion. And by that time, Paul Freeman has arrived. Again, he kind of disappears for the third act until he arrives just there and has Van Damme's baby, as well as Dennis Rodman and Van Damme himself. And this is what I'm talking about, the Coca-Cola machine. They hide behind a Coca-Cola machine as this swanky CGI with a fire unleashes over them. And it's really surreal scene to watch. I'm like, they were saved by a Coca-Cola vending machine. That's product placement at its fucking craziest. And then pretty much they go their separate ways, and Dennis Rodman is left there, and pretty much the movie ends. Pretty crappy song at the end where Dennis Rodman, I guess, did some of the lyrics. I enjoy the film because I think there's a lot of style, a lot of energy, some pretty fun set pieces, action sequences. I like Mickey Rourke as the villain. It's not fantastic, but I like him as an actor. It's cool to see him there. I like Van Damme. Um, I like Paul Freeman. I like some of the fisticuffs and action set pieces. It moved at a fast pace. I particularly liked the part where Van Damme was in the colony because I thought that's an interesting idea. I'm not saying original, but it was interesting to see Van Damme and that kind of thing. Hell, I got more enjoyment out of that than Escape Plan with Schwarzenegger and Stallone, sadly enough. I like this movie more than Escape Plan. It has more action, more energy, more style than Escape Plan. So I find it very entertaining. It's not one of my favorites, but I do find it pretty entertaining. I definitely say it's better than Knockoff. And I have fun with Double Team, but again, if I have problems, it's Dennis Rodman is the main problem. It should have been someone like Roddy Piper. There's a Carl Weathers. Hell, there's a lot of people who could have gotten. The Coca-Cola propaganda. I mean, they get saved by a fucking Coca-Cola vending machine. It's really silly, but it's so surreal that it's like some wonky CG. Which there's a lot of practical, which is very nice. But once in a while, you get some wonky CG, like at the end with the Coca-Cola machine, the big fire. You get some wonky CG. Once or twice, you see Van Damme's double during a fight scene. It's not like Steven Seagal, though, I will say, and his later films. At least it's not like that. But once in a while, I count on one hand how many I saw that, but it's like, if you have Van Damme, let him be able to do what he can do. But I only saw it a handful of times, so that'll be just a smaller nitpick, but still a nitpick. And the Cybermonks. You didn't need them. You could have taken them out. You could have just had Dennis Rodman typing on something. You could have just had the because even some friends at the colony actually help them out, help the monks out. So you could have just had Van Damme asked for help, or Dennis Rodman looking at something, and then that happens. I mean, you didn't need the Cybermonks. That was silly too. So take the Cybermonks out thing. Take the Coca-Cola out. That's silly. Uh, and yeah, Dennis Rodman is really the big problem with the film because he's not a good actor and his basketball puns are not that funny. But other than that, I still find this an entertaining Van Damme film. I don't think it's one of his best, like Kevin Thomas says, but still an entertaining film. I still had fun with the film. But that's just my opinion. Either way, that's my views on Double Team. Thanks for watching. Take care, and we will see you later. Bye-bye.